So we really want to understand that an isolated, abstracted pattern doesn't speak for the whole market. But what is going to happen from this high is going to be spoken about by the whole market. So it seems to me that it's much better there's nothing wrong with understanding isolated patterns. There's nothing wrong with understanding candlesticks. But if you want to understand what the market is likely going to do, you're going to have to understand a wider, deeper understanding of what the whole market is saying it wants to do, rather than specifically saying this one little thing makes it happen. Like, let me give you an example. There's a level at 45.40, which when we get above 45.40, it means the market's going to go to 45.90s. In fact, we had forecast that it would go up to like 45.90 to 95. Actually, the real number was 95 to 96, and they only got up to 45.90 yesterday, and they didn't close well. So a person could say, well, that means the market is ready to go down. It could mean that, but only out of luck that that particular pattern matched what the whole market was saying it wanted to do anyway. So I would say to you that there's nothing wrong with understanding patterns and nothing wrong with understanding candlesticks and anything else which is very isolated. But I want you to remember the word isolated and understand that it means something. It means that it's not actually taking in the whole picture. It is isolated, and in some cases it will tend to tell you what's going to happen, but more by accident, because if it's not taking in the larger picture, then it is an accident that it's correct. And we don't want to be accidentally correct. If I knew for sure that I didn't know anything about the market, and you probably could say the same statement, would you want to do this, right? I don't know what's going to happen at the gambling tables here in Las Vegas, and there's plenty of them for us to go to. So I don't have any interest. If I really don't know what's going to happen, then I'm actually gambling. Gambling is when, in my opinion, this is my definition, gambling is when you take a risk and you know the odds are against you. And how do you know that? Because you know you don't know. That's how you know the odds are against you. The odds may actually be in your favor, but because you don't know, they actually are against you because you simply don't know. So I don't want to be involved in something like that. I'd like to be involved in something where I have some actual knowledge about the outcome of something, whether it's markets or something else, that actually can help me or help you to know that something specific is going to happen. And in order to have that knowledge, we can't isolate things out. It's like what doctors used to do. They still do it, but doctors are coming around to a very similar kind of intelligence, which is that there used to be there still are, heart doctor, lung doctor, various doctors that specialize in various parts of the body. And there's nothing wrong with that. What was wrong was that they weren't understanding what was happening with that specific thing, the heart as an example, as opposed to taking in the whole body, the whole biosphere that heart exists in. They can know an awful lot about the heart, but the heart isn't the whole thing that makes the heart not doing well. The whole thing is the whole body. So medical science slowly, but hopefully surely over time, is beginning to consider the uniqueness of each person's body, biosphere, and so on. And yes, there's still a specialist that's going to understand as much as he can about the heart, but he doesn't want to isolate it as much as he may used to. And he wants to understand it in conjunction with the whole body. Certainly, if there's something wrong with the heart, he needs to repair that if he can, and so on. And in that fact, he's going to be working directly on the heart. But here's an example. The heart and the lungs, for all of medical history, were considered two separate things. Medicine is now considering the heart and the lungs more like one unit rather than two now. And so even in that regard, they're broadening their view out and saying it's not just about this, it's also about this, the heart and the lungs. In cancer, they used to think of cancers just as, well, you have breast cancer or you have this other type of cancer, as if the cancer was denoted entirely by where it was on your body. And that's all they were doing. If it occurred in your breast, it was called breast cancer. If it occurred in your spine, it was called spine cancer. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's just way too limited. It's not really spine cancer, and it's not really breast cancer. It's cancer that is there because of specific, perhaps inadequacies or some other thing, genetic or otherwise, in that whole biosphere, that whole body. And so science is beginning, slowly but surely, medical science, to consider the entire body of the person and consider the cancer as, in some ways, unique to that specific person, and to be treating it as that, as opposed to saying, well, we're treating it as breast cancer because it's located in the breast. I mean, honestly, that sounds a little lame, doesn't it? Right? I mean, you have to name it, you have to say where it is, but they're now getting to the point where they're treating the cancer, strangely, as cancer, not necessarily breast cancer, but cancer of that specific body and all of the processes in that body. So ultimately, we may end up at a point where medicine is treating the person as individual parts, but only in conjunction with a broader understanding of the whole. And that's the very thing that we're talking about with the market. It's good to isolate, but that can't tell you the whole picture. There has to be a broader understanding of what is going to happen.